Hello, this is Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM, and this is my podcast, The Hermit Homebrew. Joining me today is Brent from Lang Mini Studios, and Chase, better known as Kilk, as we talk about Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop gaming. Cultures just don't appear, they're forged through hardship, through belief, through arguments of who gets to sit where and why. And why that stew only gets made during the red moon. And today on our podcast, we're going to dig into how you can build the kind of richness that's going to set your campaign apart from anyone else's. Dive into the folklore and the funerals and whatever else. Do us a favor, hit that follow button, leave us a review, check out the links to our sponsors down below in the description, and help support this show that keeps the mics hot and the ale cold for our dwarves. Culture often starts through hardship. I've found, I mean, we talk about this all the time on this podcast, let's be honest, whether it be wars, ecological collapse, or spiritual upheaval. Conflict leaves behind scars that become traditions and taboos and values. Is there any sort of mythological or historical conflict that's shaped a culture that you guys can think of that people could draw inspiration from? Even in a fantasy culture.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at look at Dune. You have Arrakis that creates the spice that makes it possible for interstellar travel to happen, and the whole point of what happens on Dune is just to get the spice flowing. So you've got the Fremen that are put down, that are sometimes even hunted for sport by House Harkonnen, and then because Atreides was getting too powerful, or the Emperor thought Atreides was getting too powerful, a huge setup between the Emperor and House Harkonnen to have House Atreides take the fall for stuff that was happening on Dune, just so they could go and kill him, essentially, to stop a fantasized or fabled uprising from happening. And it causes a huge great war that causes Paul to become the next emperor.
And
so
they just announced they started making Dune 3 or in some pre-production.
Oh, okay. That'll be interesting to see. That'll be interesting to see the God King, Leto II. But okay, if they go that route.
I'm trying to think of like things that like define contradictions, such as like pacifist monks with violent roots or things like that, especially in fandoms. Like I know with like historical conflict or even fantastical ones, you and me, Brent, talked about the Bajorans and the Cardassians, and
Ooh, yeah,
like how that
yeah
affected things in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
that was a very like central focal point of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, yep.
Or like in Babylon 5, that was the point of contention of the space station, was these five uneasy like civilizations all living together, and these are the ambassadors and how they kind of handle it throughout these different things.
Mm-hmm. Jakar was in my opinion, the best character at Babylon 5.
Of the Narn.
Jakar.
I mean, in reality, we pull how much from, like the Warhammer fandom?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we're deeply rooted in the Norse mythology side of it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot that's pulled in our current campaign from actual Norse mythology. Like,
and then it's
real world Norse mythology. Yeah, and then we also have a lot of stuff, to be fair, because that's what's currently hot now. It's the MCU Norse mythology.
Oh.
Right? We have a little bit, we take a lot back and forth of both of those. And I think that's probably the heaviest one in ours. I feel like this question was designed to try to get me to tell you which anime I'm pulling from in my campaign setting when I'm making it, but I'm not going to tell you.
What, the contradiction?
I'm too smart for that, DM. Too smart for that. But no, I mean, our setting has tons of stuff that you can think of, pulling from all kinds of different places. I mean, Kilk might as well have been a Legolas copy, just a Black Cat version.
I can see that.
I have Rumlock, who's old world Warhammer. Slayer.
Gotrek.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty close. I actually styled him off of a specific Slayer.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
found in lore, and I don't think it was Gotrek. I think it was a lesser known one.
Oh, okay.
That I pulled from.
George Lucas, like, created Star Wars off this samurai movies, Wizards of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of stuff. Flash Gordon was a very heavy inspiration for that. And he created, and he stuck to very classical mythology, and that's why it stuck with people, is just those classic mythology, Joseph Campbell, the hero's
there's
journey.
there's enough familiar in it that people could, even though something is vastly different or fantastical, still having that little bit of what you can identify in there, like either with, or you can identify a part of it. It helps get that buy-in.
Yeah, I think the one IP I would say that does probably the best job of taking so many other IPs and like incorporating stuff into it is probably World of Warcraft. They get down to like nitty gritty things in World of Warcraft that you just wouldn't even think of. There's stuff from way back in the day from like Paris Hilton, like that's in World of Warcraft. There's like people from reality show references and all kinds of stuff, NPCs that you meet that might have glasses of this person, but they twist the names a little bit so that it sounds like a play on words. So World of Warcraft does a fantastic job. But D&D itself pulls from all of this stuff. Like official D&D, I mean, Prince of Apocalypse, you have demons in D&D, you have the 7 layers of hell. Like these are all pulled culturally from.
That's what Gygax did with building the monster manual and a lot of the wars. He went through every single mythology and folklore and just tried to take everything. I mean, you had the layers of the 9 hells. That is Dante's Inferno. You have all the demons and devils' names are all biblical or mythological names. Asmodeus,
Belial.
Yeah, those are all biblical or mythological names.
Bahamut and Tiamat.
Yeah.
Those are
Baphomet. Yeah, that's the main focus point of the Church of Satanic Worship or Satan right now is Baphomet. I love in like Game of Thrones, like when you're building a culture where its biggest threat is itself. Like the opening line to House of the Dragon is the only people that can defeat the Targaryens was themselves, and it was them that caused their own collapse. And I just love that idea of like the only person that can stop you now is yourself.
Mm-hmm. And we see that all the time in history.
The Roman Empire, I really feel the thing that really defeated the Roman Empire was themselves. They overexpanded.
Yeah, overexpanded. The economics got too like difficult.
The story of that's in that story of Germany as well, trying to go into Russia. Like they just kept going.
It's interesting. Like there's a couple of points in time of World War II that if it had swung a different way, I would say Germany would probably still control most of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, that's what that one TV series, The Man in the High Castle. That's an excellent book series, by the way, for anyone listening. Like, the TV series is good, but the books, same with any TV book series, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, if they wouldn't have invaded Russia, if they would have put their jets inside bombers, if they would have kept going with the STG-44 instead of submachine guns. I mean, Germany had the first, as what we know, a modern assault rifle. But, oh no, we can't have that. We need to have submachine guns. Why? And now, who uses submachine guns anymore? Hardly anybody. We all use assault rifles.
Hollywood uses them.
Stargate SG-1 has probably some of the coolest representations of a real world firearm. They have the P90s, and those submachine guns are freaking cool. So I got it. Okay, I'll give Hollywood that, even though Hollywood is atrocious for firearms accuracy. But anyway.
Hey, James Bond is a historical documentation. It is not fake.
I mean, according to the internet, especially lately, Ian Fleming drew a lot of his inspiration from his cousin, who is Christopher Lee, for the basis of James Bond.
Christopher Lee actually worked for like the OSI or something like that. I mean, come on.
I mean, Christopher Lee's just a goat.
Oh yeah, like the Christopher Lee, and I would love to have Christopher Lee and Teddy Roosevelt just sit down and crack a bottle of scotch.
We need Futurama. Where's our Futurama?
Where's our Futurama stuff at? Exactly.
Christopher Lee is a good example for like D&D, where real world history is weirder than fiction.
Yeah.
And if you were to say half the things that Christopher did in his life was an NPC in your setting, your players would probably be pissed because they think that you're trying to make the NPC way better.
Yeah, stop making him a DMPC. I'm not. This is a real person from history, guys.
This is a historical representation. God damn it!
Yeah, I'm actually like making
put some respect on his name.
Yeah, I'm making him weaker than what he was in real life. I thought you still believe me.
And then he spoke 8 languages on top of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but use it as inspiration, not like imitation by any means. Yeah. Avoid stereotypes, mix elements. That's all kind of what I say. You got to do it the right way for sure. I do, like we talked about anti-colonization in one episode and like being more sensitive. And I just find it, like we talk about Warhammer and all that. I find the contrast between what D&D is trying to be canon of being more sensitive and more inclusive and more less offensive. And Warhammer's just like, hold my beer.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, we're going to double down on this.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a Xenos and you worship chaos? Oh, this is a double.
Hey, I'm just saying, cat girls exist in Warhammer.
Cat girls are canon.
They are.
They are?
Cat girls are canon.
And they're considered human, too.
They're abhuman. It's the felonid, right?
Yeah, yes, the felonid.
From what I heard, and it might get me some heat from some listeners, hopefully it does, if you could leave a nasty comment down below just to boost my engagement. But I've heard that there's such thing as female space marines, even though it's a very unpopular thing to say.
Female space marines existed in Rogue Trader. There's one model that I know for sure exists. I think I've seen a second of, and they had female space marines in the original tabletop game. And the only reason they don't have them now is because no one bought the mini. So people are like, oh, they don't have female space marines. Yes, they did. Are you telling me that the God Emperor of mankind, his genetics are so weak that he can't be a female space marine? Really? That's heresy, saying the God Emperor is weak.
I was looking up some like real world examples, like just now. One of them is turning the bones, and that's from Madagascar. Like, this funerary ritual involves exhuming ancestors' remains, rewrapping them in fresh cloth, dancing with the corpse in celebration, and then joyfully living connection with the dead, and a powerful example of like veneration for your ancestors. That's a real world thing in Madagascar.
That would get you arrested in the United States. If you call the police and say that there's someone that dug up their relative and is dancing with their corpse, you're probably going to get arrested for that.
I think
100%. You're 100%. And you're going to be all over the news,
You're gonna be on
nationwide.
the list. Yeah.
I think you should have that though in your D&D world setting of just like this one species believes it's this one way, but if you went to this other species, you'd be thrown in jail if you were doing the same thing if you're doing it in this person's country.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, necromancers they recycle and create jobs. Why are these bad people? Oh no, we have to purge the undead.
In our setting, before, we haven't gone there at all. But one of the things I write is it's ruled by necromancers or hag coven.
Ooh.
To where if you're a citizen, you do not have to pay taxes if you sign this contract. Because what you do is after you die, you've signed away your body for these necromancers and hags to resurrect after your death. And then your body basically serves the country of like doing the municipal work of the city.
It's an interesting concept. Do you think that if, let's say, the United States government said, if you die and you're willing to donate your body to science, you get some kind of benefit throughout your life, but you could never take it back?
Like a tax write-off?
Right. Maybe it's a tax write-off every day, or every year.
Sign me up
after you sign up, or maybe it's whatever, but they get to do whatever they want with your body when it's done.
Yeah,
It's just in concept.
I can see a lot of people doing that. Yeah.
Do you guys like consider like borrowing from cultures, though, like lazy or harmful, or even just like adapting real world customs like into like our D&D setting, we'll say, or anyone's?
Do I believe it creates problems?
Do you believe that it's lazy or harmful?
I don't believe that any type of world building is lazy in any fashion, because it doesn't matter where you get your inspiration from, whether you created it yourself, whether you get it from Disney World, whether you have AI create it for you, or you got it because you watched X-Men. It's all the same, because you're creating it and implementing it in a way into your world that's unique to you. So I would never say that anybody's world creation is lazy. I will say that there are people that go way above and beyond to make their stuff extra special, but I will never tell anyone that's created a world that their world was lazily created because they went on a world creator and printed out a world map that got generated by one of these programs, or they created their first part, their hook in their world from a painting they saw at a museum or something. Like, that's just weird to say to somebody. I just don't. There's no way I could ever call anyone's stuff lazy when it comes to a world building concept.
Because even if you look at the real world, with the rise of the information age, with the internet and the almost near instantaneous transmission of ideas across the globe, it's to say that it's wrong for someone, let's say in the United States, to see someone's post in Japan about a new way of making food, to say, oh, you can't do that because you saw it on the internet. You can't do that because you're in the United States. That's only people in Japan can do that. No, that's stupid. Otherwise we would never have like half the stuff that we have is because of information that has been shared amongst other countries, amongst other people's religions, creeds, whatever you want to put a spin on it. So much has been created through collaboration that no, it's not lazy. There's that saying that the only reason I've seen as far as I have is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. That's true. Everything is built upon what came before. Who cares, who built it? We're building on top of it.
The only way I consider it harmful, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because I agree with both of you guys 100%, is if you're taking from another culture, a real world culture, and it was something very sacred to them that probably shouldn't be screwed with. Other than that, I mean, even then, you could probably even take it and just twist it, as long as you twist it and, you're not being mean about it by any means.
As long as you're taking it and using it in good faith.
Yeah.
I could see that. If you're taking it and you're using it in order to be derogatory, okay, yeah. Okay, cool. I can draw.
I guess I have to ask the question then, in the new Assassin's Creed in Japan.
Okay.
You are able to go to a very sacred place in Japan and destroy the fuck out of it. And this caused a very large uproar in Japan. Like, you can't do this. These are sacred, relics, blah, blah, blah. Now, they got a lot of defenders saying that, yeah, that's a sacred place, Japan. That's wrong. They shouldn't have done that. And then there were all the people defending the game's decision saying, we're talking about a game that's killed the Pope. A game that's gone to every other place in history and destroyed everything. You were able to destroy everything. You were able to kill major people in history. And they're like, so why should, just because Japan feels that this temple is very sacred to them and very important, why should they get the benefit of the doubt? Why should the game have to change just for them? And I do believe that the game did change. I believe they came back and patched it so you could not destroy that temple. Is there a difference if we say in Italy, if he goes and let's say he kills people in the Leaning Tower, for instance, and they said that's a sacred place, you can't do that. Like, come on. And left it in the game, but in Japan they're going to do it here, right? So is anyone wrong in that situation? I don't think anybody's wrong. I don't think that it's also right to change it, because you've set a precedent, right? You've set a precedent that says if a country is upset that my video game may have destroyed something they felt that was important to them, I now have to go back and change it because I've already done it for these people.
That's interesting, because my
that's where I look at it.
Is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you're playing a Viking. How many churches and monasteries did you pillage and
yes,
murder,
absolutely,
like everybody there?
And all these points were brought up in this.
Yeah, like and that was considered, and that's okay. But right. Interesting.
Is it because Japan feels more strongly about that than, say, Christianity does, destroying their temples, or any of these other religious areas? I don't know.
Because you can't even go the historical route, because if you go back to like the Sengoku period of Japan, there were temples getting burned all the time. I mean, Buddhist monks were like hunted down.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, huh.
So it's interesting, It's definitely, some cultures are more sensitive than others. Some religions are more sensitive than others to, their things being disrespected. And as these video games get more and more crazy, we're going to see more and more of this, I think. Oh, yeah. And I mean, it all started back when Call of Duty was dropping nukes in the Middle East.
Oh God.
I could think of another mission that's a little bit more of a hot button in Call of Duty than when they dropped the nuke.
Sure. The airport.
Yeah, remember
the airport? Yeah,
Russian. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it
was
wild. Harmful though, if like, for instance, like very extreme example. I remember playing in a game in the mid 2000s that I was a lot less culturally sensitive and played in a game that was not run by me, but where the dungeon master preferred to give like all these shifters very stereotypical Hispanic accents. To me, that's a little bit cliche and harmful, just because you're
shifters.
Yeah, shifters. For whatever reason, he hooked up.
He made them Hispanic.
Yeah, he made them all Hispanic and very Speedy Gonzales from Looney Tunes.
Isn't that what they just did with the orcs?
Thank you, Chase.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking, like, that's the artwork, right? The artwork is them very...
Yeah.
It's very obviously based in Central American lore.
This episode's been brought to you by... What's in the bag? What's in the mystery bag? Relax, adventurers. It's not some grim movie ending, it's better. It's Heimdaller's Mystery Metal Dice Bag, loaded with 20 different styles of heavy, battle-ready metal dice. A random D&D class sticker of 13 possibilities, and a special Heimdall sticker with it. Perfect for your next chaotic moment at the table. So stop guessing, start rolling, find out what's in your bag. All right, I want you to imagine this. Your next game session, you drop a 4-story guild hall on the table. The roof comes off. Every floor is playable. It's Centurion 3D's Guardia collection. The detail is unreal. The immersion off the charts. Then suddenly, bam, your players walk in the room and your table goes just not from another session to one that will be talked about for years. This is the train that changes the game. Check it out now at centurion3d.com. You and me were talking about that at work the other day, and I encourage people to do this in your setting. Of people in real world were saying that the orcs were ugly or they were too brutish or savage looking, and that's the reason why they changed them a bit. Of course, us as humans are not going to find orcs attractive. They are a different species. They are of big tusks than brutish, but there are some fandoms. In fact, I used to go out with a person that thought orcs from a certain way were attractive. A prime example, and this is the one I used with you, Chase, is the Membarian Babylon 5 thought humans were ugly as fuck and wanted and almost got repulsed at the idea of ever wanting to have an intimate relation with them. And it just was not his thing. So why would a human think an orc is pretty? You're whitewashing them, making them look more, you're doing the exact thing that you're trying not to do. You're making them look more like something and taking away what they are.
Their distinctiveness and their uniqueness. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's also another way of looking at this as orcs used to be bad guys, right?
Yeah, and I understand
when D&D was established, they were monsters, they were bad guys. They were meant to be fought and killed by the players. And it seems like over the years, rather than now being bad guys, there became half-orc races, right? Then, all kinds of other things. They were slowly incorporating the orcs into the player base, right? This design, you could say, was beloved enough in the lore to say you can play now as a full orc, and we need to hash them out more versus than just them being, barbaric crushy boys.
Well, I think that's inherent in a lot of like RP, like fantasy and stuff like that, to where you look at some, or I'm not going to say specific people, but fans in general will sometimes gravitate towards a certain thing and make an archetype that goes against it. One of the most famous fantasy characters is a drow. Drow are evil, spider worshipping, human sacrificing slavers. And now here's one that's running around being a hero. And now we've got, hey, maybe drow aren't that bad. So kind of the same thing with the orcs. I mean, look, World of Warcraft did it. Warcraft, you were the humans and the orcs were the bad guys. They were the invaders.
Yeah.
And now, they're different. So I think that's just a natural progression of things. So now that we've made
the bad guys eventually become your friends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how every basically works.
What is it? You either die a villain or you live long enough to become a good guy?
Yeah, right. Like every anime that doesn't kill people.
Yeah, they get their
defeats the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then he generally joins the party in some way, shape, or form and goes and helps them accomplish against other bad guys, right? Like
the anime fairy tale, Gajiel, the Iron Dragon.
every guy they beat in Fairy Tale ends up joining him. It feels like.
Yeah.
In our setting, I was writing like the half orc and the orcs, and I put them down as one entry because to me they're the same species. I took all the same classic tropes in orcs because I wanted to keep them the way they are. I like the way they are, and I did the thing that we always talked about: is I rewrote the lore to fit the trope. Of no, they do pillage, they do this as a former victim of SA. I don't want that in my setting. I'm not going to put that in my setting. So orcs in our setting, when they find a species or a culture that they admire because they have a particular trait, like this, we'll say take Japan, the Japan culture, for instance, they become hyper focused on one thing to become super good at it. In our setting, I think the orcs would find that admirable, and they'd want to breed among that culture to adopt that into their culture. That way they adopt that in, or they learn it.
Yeah.
That way they can become a stronger species.
It's like, talk about Babylon 5 at the end. Jakar leaves with that one human chick because she's psychic, and because he wants to get the psychic gene into his species because they don't have it, or they used to and it got killed off. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, we've done it with dogs for centuries. We've bred them to where.
Yeah. That's a genetic mutation, and we're trying to breed cats that have legs that are only 2 inches long.
I don't have a. I'm always to be. It doesn't really matter what the IP decides to do with the orcs. I feel like as a whole, they're generally pretty similar across the board.
Yes.
In the way that they look, generally the way that they act is pretty similar straight across the board. Now, there's varying levels of intelligence that they give these creatures and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I don't know. It was just a little strange, but I could see why they might take the orcs, since there are a lot of players who play orcs and half orcs out there in D&D. They're out there all over the place. Maybe it turned into one of those things where, hey, this race is so liked that maybe we should actually give them a backstory. Now, should they have done that and changed it all now? Maybe not. Like, right? Like they could have started this process a long time ago. But
yeah,
I have to give WotC credit though, because I've been paying attention to what they've kind of been doing, because they're. And I don't like to give WotC credit for anything, especially lately.
Yeah, I'm saying careful.
But they're bringing back Drows of Lilith into their Forgotten Realms campaign setting, and they're apparently not just focusing on the Sword Coast. They're actually going inland finally.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be templates for the Drows of Lilith. So maybe with the new creative changes and all that, their focus is more on tradition as opposed to appeasing more of a more newer, smaller sect of modern players.
So now I want them to do the Orcs of Grumsh. Because the orc god Grumsh, One Eye, is very nasty.
Yes, he is.
So
I love in the Volos book, they have the one.
All the orc gods are crazy.
Yeah.
They have the orcs in the Volos book that are riding these giant bats, and the bats like perched on the side of the tower.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was super cool.
Yeah.
This is so badass.
That is so awesome. Yeah.
And I do have to give, out of all our conversations with Warhammer and me getting into it and loving the Black Templars and all that, and me choosing that as my faction, but the thing I've enjoyed most, especially from a social media point, is orcs and just all the comical top orc. They took all these pieces of metal together and made a mini of this orc flying looks like a carrier, and then they play the Top Gun thing to it. Or I was telling you the other day, Chase, that somebody 3D printed a thing of 4 orcs faces and made a Mount or Mount Orc.
Mount Rushmore.
Oh, Mount
Rushmore.
Mount Orc War, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, man,
It's amazing.
the orcs are the greatest.
Oh,
You know, the orcs honestly are the thing you play when you just want to have a great time.
yeah. When you want to have fun, you play orcs. You don't play them to win.
Yeah.
I just, as I mentioned, I do like that, you know, you have WotC and all them switching to being more this way, and then Warhammer's just leaning more into
They're
like,
leaning more into it. Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
out the window and like, no, we're staying the way we are.
Yeah.
This is why people buy our product.
Yeah. That is...
Orcs at Warhammer, though, I think they do a very good job with, to be fair. They make them goofy, but they also make them not humans in any way, shape, or form. They're a plant, right?
Yeah, they're
and it kind of goes back. Warhammer's not afraid to do, like we said, cat people are part of the Imperium. Not like, which is weird, right? Because you talk about like the xenophobia and everything that the Imperium has.
You have to, burn the heretic, the mutant, and the Xenos. So it's like,
yeah,
so cat people aren't mutants? Okay.
And neither are Ogryn, right? Ogryn are not considered mutants to them. Ogryns are actually stronger than Space Marines physically.
So
and
the halflings. There's
yeah. So what
is there?
I'll do a little side tangent here. What happened, and the reason this happens in the Imperium is because when the Emperor of Mankind was doing the Great Crusade, he would come to worlds that had been populated, tens of thousands of years ago by humans. And those humans have evolved based on what has happened on those planets over so long. And they would show up and they would basically decide if they were still human enough to be part of the Imperium. And if they were, they would allow them to stay. That's why Ogryns were allowed. Ogryns were mutants from Earth anyway. But that's why, the cat people are allowed. And there's all these other things because they are considered human enough to not be considered Xenos. And they were given the option of joining. If they were not human enough, they were just wiped out.
Do you imagine in a D&D setting if there was a species or a race that was going around and basically determining whether people were good enough to be part of their,
if they were genetically good enough
to survive.
Genetically pure enough, yeah.
And you have this emperor that's looking for basically the master race, almost, or considers them the master race. Yeah.
That's an interesting question, right? I don't think that the Emperor ever considered humanity the master race. The Emperor just was trying to ensure that humanity survived and ruled the galaxy. Not that they were better than everybody else, but that was his job, was to spread humanity across the stars.
Okay.
And to bring the Imperium of Man to greatness. All the genetic stuff was done to Space Marines to make them stronger fighters. You can be born on a planet as a human and never get any kind of genetic adjustment. If he felt that humans were genetically superior, he wouldn't have needed to genetically alter them.
That's a good devil's advocate view.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Huh.
But yeah. Hot topic, Ogryns are stronger than Space Marines in their power armor. Do you know why Space Marines beat Ogryns? Because Ogryns are dumb AF. They're super strong, but a Space Marine is not only super strong, he's accurate, he's fast as fuck. He's just everything that a warrior would be, whereas an Ogryn is literally a giant strength. He's got a strength of 20 and an intelligence of 1. That's all I'm saying. As an Ogryn. They have the stories in there of Ogryn just smashing dudes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
There's even Ogryn power armor, I think, that they did genetic testing on and made them smart or something. I'll have to go back and look, but I saw a little bit of lore of where that happened somewhere, and basically those Ogryn were essentially unstoppable. And they're like, we're not doing this ever again.
Yeah, we can't do that again. Yeah.
Before we get to our next kind of point of topic, I just want to say, let me take a second to consider, or for the people that are listening, take a second and talk and consider and check out our partners in today's episode description. They're good people doing good work. Supporting them, you support us. And if you like what we're doing here, make sure to like our video and subscribe and share it with your friends. And then check out our sponsors, because I'm pretty sure almost other than yeah, I'm pretty sure that we have anything among our sponsors, a pretty wide selection of anything you need with tabletop gaming. You can find through our sponsors. Yeah, we have a paint person, we have a miniatures person, we have a bunch of different, just wonderful sponsors. And Ember Gold Gaming has a bunch of just randomness, bags and totes and all that carry all that stuff in as well. I do want to talk a little about kind of one more kind of topic among this culture, and like I really want to give our listeners a chance to kind of build a good culture, and that's kind of talking about like the outsider versus insiders, like that cultural duality of like how society sees itself or views how the outsiders view or judge that society. Like, and I was mentioning like the classic examples like token elves versus token dwarves, and just that conflict of looking down at each other, whether physically by the elves or metaphorically by the dwarves. That just tension. What's the local self image? What's the myths or stereotypes do the outsiders believe?
And that's kind of the interesting thing about cultures, is that a lot of the times things that are culturally relevant to them are either out of necessity or out of just the environment. So, like, if you look at traditional burials, they are underground. They're 6 feet down. You have the casket inside the concrete vault. You have all of that. Well, in New Orleans,
It's above ground.
a lot of them are above ground because the water table is too high. You can't bury people underground. The land just can't handle it, and they'll start poking back up and stuff like, just because of the flooding that happens every year. So they do above ground burials, and that's okay. In
It's
in
a
France,
tourist thing.
yeah, it's a tourist thing. In France, you have the catacombs underneath France.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, you have tunnels just made of literal human bone. And the great chambers, the ossuaries, and all that. That's what that's what they do. There's tons of different ways that people have.
The Egyptians,
The
they're more revealed people. They took all the innards or the organs out of
into
and
the
jarred
Coptic
them.
jars, and mummified them so that they could exist in the afterlife. So a lot of the stuff, it's like, it's kind of weird. Like, whoa, you take their brain out through their nose? What the heck? Well, yeah, we're not going to crack their skull open. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a lot of cultures. Especially when they don't interact with each other, they will continue on along very different paths. And then you can get into the psychology of it all and stuff like that. But yeah, it's from the outside, it could be considered barbaric, or it could be considered what's the word I'm thinking of, overkill, lack of a better term. Like you're going way overboard. You're creating great pyramids, and having the sarcophagi that are 4 or 5 layers deep of artwork, and you've got jewels, and you've got all of these burial chambers full of all this exquisite extra stuff. Where in another one, like, you don't need that because you're not taking it with you. The soul doesn't do that. The soul doesn't need it. So all you need to do is put them in a pine box and bury them next to a church, and you're okay. So it is interesting to go down that path, and to kind of take that idea of, especially in a fantasy setting, you can have your races or species, or however you want to look at it, your legacies, handle things completely different. Maybe elves do a sky burial, to where they just put them out in nature and let nature reclaim them, to where the dwarves can do a version of cremation, to where they're encased in molten metal. to where how important they are is how rare the metal is. Like the kings and queens are
Sure.
in like gold and platinum. The crafters are made and are done in like steel.
Mummified, metallic mummifying.
Literal metallic mummifying. To where like the run of the mill, maybe they can only get like copper, or whatever.
Isn't that the premise of the Necrons?
How so?
They became metallic.
Well, yeah,
the important ones got better metallic bodies, and as they were going down the line, the crappy ones got shitty bodies.
Well, the important ones got to keep their psyche, to where the peons are literally just automata, to where like the king is pretty much who he was in life. So yes. One of the biggest things that you could do is just have one culture do things one way, and then have another culture do it completely different.
In South America,
then why?
In South America, there's a tribe of people that actually like honor their dead by eating them.
Yeah.
The Warhi.
It's culturally accepted cannibalism. Yeah.
And it's not like a barbaric thing for them. It's a act of grief and remembrance.
Yeah.
And it's honored.
Yeah. It's like you become the graveyard to your family and stuff like that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to eat a person, but hey, if that's how they do it, who am I to judge? I'm nobody.
I mean, Supernatural, a hunter's death was a funeral pyre as well. I mean, that was the way to go.
Yeah.
And that was more symbolic than that. You burn the body just to make sure they didn't come back.
They didn't get they didn't get used by evil to come back and do shenanigans. Yeah.
But I just like that kind of like contrasting image of like if you went to the Freeland territories, what they'd say about the Imperial Nation of Nimdor, or if you went to Nimdor, what would they say about the Freelands? And that may not be true. It's just what they say about each other.
Yeah.
Like, what do we say about Canadians? They're one of the nicest cultures as is. Does that mean they are? I'm sure there's lots of assholes in Canada. I'm not denying it, but they do have a reputation of being one of the nicest cultures.
Unless you get them in a war.
Unless they're in war.
And then that's
that is war crimes.
Come from.
Is that what started?
Oh, bro. Look up Canadian war crimes.
It's a running gag that the first page of the Geneva Convention is all this shit that Canada did.
Yeah, look it up. I won't get into it. Like, they're just nice. But man, when they get angry, you won't like them when they're angry.
That's true.
Getting back on topic a little bit, I do just want to say, just talking about like even how like romance happens between species or races. I don't agree with the 5e 5.5 thing where they said species can intermingle. I think that in itself is a little bit taboo, but that's just me.
That's a little weird because they can. They always have been. Are we saying that you can't have a half dragon human running around and that's where they got their sorcerer powers from?
I feel like
I just kind of assume Dragonborn are like that, right? Are Dragonborn not part human? Or am I not understanding the Dragonborn race?
Yeah, it depends who you talk to and what lore.
I was thinking the draconic bloodline sorceress origin. Is that no longer a thing?
True? Yeah, draconic sorcerer origin is true.
Yeah, I mean in canon D&D 5.5 2020 whatever book. Bloodline sorcerer's not a thing?
Yeah, it is. Your innate magic comes from draconic magic that was mingled with your blood or that of your ancestors. Most often, sorcerers of this origin race trace their descendant back to a mighty sorcerer of ancient times who made a bargain with a dragon or who might have claimed the dragon parent.
We have an entire nation in our setting developed on that exact principle.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they can't intermingle. Anyway,
I
I mean, they can take the form of humans, right? They're shapeshifters by nature, are they not? Or is that just in different? Or is that in different lore?
no,
No, just
dragons.
Metallic ones.
Back in second edition, and I know in 3.5, most dragons were innate spellcasters, and a lot of them could like polymorph.
And they've brought it back into 5.5.
Okay, cool. So yeah, and it wasn't.
So they would polymorph themselves. Was that the idea rather than shapeshift? It was I'm polymorphing myself into human.
I do know in more recent multiple editions, like metallic dragons can actually just shape change into.
Yeah, it's more of a shape change thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think back in 3.5, it was both metallic and chromatic dragons could do it. I think. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I want to say they could. Because a lot of dragons like enjoy doing that, like going around in human guises, and you never know that you are talking to a dragon just because they're just walking around like a dude.
Because otherwise, by themselves, are solitary creatures inside their caves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time.
So
there's some social ones, but
yeah, counting their money.
I just look at it as when they transform into humans and go do stuff, they're just being social.
I think that's why the metallic ones they explain off is that they can shape change is because they do intermingle with like a humanoid culture, and they like being social. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I have a couple of tips I just kind of want to give people that are building cultures. Actually about a half a dozen. One is I think you should turn rituals and real world things into adventure, base quests around festivals, taboos, cultural challenges. The other one, I'm reading off the list that I made because I wanted to make sure I hit everything that I was thinking of. One is backstory hooks. Encourage players to define clan customs or childhood rights, because the person across the table from you is going to have a different point of view than what you have, and that's how you get that living campaign world setting, as those different culture ideas. Show, don't dump. Let players observe and stumble across cultural norms. Like in our setting, to call a halfling is a slander.
Yeah, they are hodkin.
Yes. Yeah. And the gnomes and the halflings have bred into one race because they were both hunted down to almost extinction, to where they intermingled with each other. Add eternal debate is one. Show progressives and traditionalists within a culture. And I mean, that's half the debate here of this entire series of episodes. Is the more modern gaming as opposed to the more traditional. I'd reward cultural fluency. Respect earns allies, and faux pas bring tension. Add both. Use cultural use culture for themes. Let cultural values drive orcs. As I said, like the tradition versus progression. Those are kind of just the things that I kind of came up with while I was talking. Did you guys have any kind of tips that you could think of to give our listeners of like building a good culture?
I really like what you said about that cultural sensitivity or whatever it was, like inclusion.
Yeah.
To where, it builds friendships and comrades. That could be a really good like role play moment, to where if your character like goes out of their way to either respect a culture or to do something that they normally wouldn't do, but to show like, hey, look, I get that this is different, but I'm still respecting you. That is a really cool like point. Like I can't think of anything like straight off my head. But
Legolas and Gimli, I mean.
Legolas and Gimli, yeah, that's a big one there. But just like if you have a character like with Nate's character being a human, he's stranger in a strange land, where he's never been to Svartalheim. He doesn't know, but it could help him in a long way of adapting, or the whole point of when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But also it's also a good thing to stick to your guns, to where don't lose your character's identity in a in a different culture. Still stick to your character's culture that you had planned out, or what's been done in like your source books or whatever, because that helps your character be distinct from just the random person that's walking around. So yeah, that's just like, don't lose yourself in the effort to be, I guess, don't lose yourself trying to be inclusive, but there's probably a better way of wording that.
You don't want everyone being the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing that I even just thought of now, and we could almost make an entire episode off that, is just like different cultural like foods and traditions even around that. Because how many like squid is a delicacy like in like Western Asia and throughout Asia. We eat it here and all that, but I mean, once upon a time we would have looked at a squid and just like, ew.
I'm going to put a question out to people because I have a theory, and I'd like to know if I'm wrong. Here's my theory. Every culture has a dumpling of some sort, whether it be pierogies or wontons or what. Every culture has one of those. Am I wrong? I'd like to know.
That's a good question.
Do you have any final?
Probably. I mean, bread and grains are pretty common throughout the world. So I would say it really depends on if your setting has gods or not, right? And if they are known or unknown. Mostly because in human history, a lot of culture has been based around the deities and religion. Like it was huge in the Greek life. It was obviously big for the Nordic peoples. It was, big for all of them, Egyptians, and even, over to, ancient China and ancient Japan, and, feudal Japan and stuff like that. They still had deities, and a lot of their culture and their specific cultural points are tied to maybe stuff that happens in those pantheons. So I think you can take a lot of inspiration from the pantheons that you create in your setting, right? If your character in this country or empire or whatever follows a specific deity, then you can kind of tailor that country around maybe what that deity rules over, right? And so then their cultural norms, it could be a society that worships the forge god. And so now this culture loves crafting, right? And what they do is they make great armors and they take great pride in their craft work, right? And now suddenly you end up with dwarves because crafting and forging and all this stuff would take rocks. And who loves to work and dig with rocks? Oh, okay, we'll make dwarves. We'll use these guys, right? So I think it really just depends. If you don't have any deities, then it gets a little more interesting because then you're basing that foundation on the survival as like a pure instinct, right? And how that would uplift them as a civilization into whatever modern quote unquote time that you're in your setting. So I think that a good starting point is whether or not you have gods. And in D&D you generally do.
That is probably the deepest thing I've heard we've gone into on this series of episodes. That's like very, very well thought out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm a thinking man. What can I say?
At the end of the day, though, a cool culture isn't built on maps or magic items. It's built on how people mourn their dead, feed their kids, fall in love, and remember the scars they've tried to forget. If you build into a world where you're just trying to run a campaign, you're hosting a living, breathing society. Hey, tabletop gamers. Thank you for watching this episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We come out with new episodes every Wednesday. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as we continue to level up and grow.